The glass chimed before the laughter did, a thin, bright note that cut through the chatter like a warning bell. The ballroom smelled faintly of champagne and eucalyptus, the kind of scent people spray to make joy feel planned. I just set my hand on Emily's back when I saw him rise, her ex, Dylan, lifting his glass as if he'd earned the right to speak. The air shifted. Even the photographer lowered his camera. I didn't know yet that one sentence could change a whole marriage before it even started. We'd met 6 years earlier in Savannah, Georgia, both broke, both convinced we were the reasonable ones in our past breakups. I was working IT for a real estate firm, pulling side jobs, fixing routers, and hanging drywall. Emily taught fifth grade, all soft-voiced confidence and color-coded planners. We met because her modem blinked out the night before her virtual parent conferences. That first evening, she'd apologized for her messy apartment, half-folded laundry, a grocery list scribbled on a cereal box, but I noticed the smell of basil instead. She'd tried to make spaghetti, and I fixed her Wi-Fi. She told me later that the moment the signal bar lit up, she thought, "He's steady." For years, that word defined me. Our wedding had been postponed twice, first for her father's surgery, then for money. We finally booked a hotel ballroom in Jacksonville, Florida. Nothing extravagant, just polished floors, 40 guests, and a playlist we'd argued over for weeks. I thought I'd checked every box: DJ, photographer, open bar, seating chart. What I didn't plan for was Dylan's name sliding onto the guest list through her college friends group text. "He's part of the friend circle," she said when I noticed. "It'd be weird to exclude him. It's ancient history." Ancient history looked pretty fresh in a navy suit. He'd been the first one she dated after college. 3 years together. The kind of relationship that leaves a long digital footprint. I'd seen the old photos. Bonfires, matching Halloween costumes, road trips with his arm around her knee. They broke up, she said, because he didn't want to grow up yet. I believed her. That night, during cocktail hour, I told myself it was fine. People change. I shook his hand. He called me man too many times. Still, I caught the glances, her friends nudging one another, his subtle smile when she laughed too easily at something small. I let it pass. Weddings have ghosts. I wasn't about to pick a fight with one. Dinner went smoothly. Emily looked radiant. The way her shoulder straps slipped when she leaned in to cut her chicken made something in my chest ache with gratitude. Her father cried during his toast. My mom told a story about me burning a frozen pizza in college. Then the DJ said, "Last call for speeches," and Dylan stood. The mic squeaked, a lazy feedback whine that turned heads. He wasn't on the schedule. He smiled at Emily, then at me. "I'll keep it short," he said. "But when someone you care about finds happiness, you don't stay quiet." Laughter. The polite kind. I remember the condensation sliding down my glass, my reflection warped in the rim. He started with college memories. Road trips, bad landlords, inside jokes. Emily's cheeks flushed. I tried to breathe normally. Then his tone shifted. "She's the most loyal person I've ever met," he said, looking straight at me now. "Even when things got messy, even when someone else made a mistake." A ripple moved through the tables. She taught me that love doesn't end just because a relationship does. Sometimes it just changes its name. It landed quiet. Too quiet. Emily's hand froze on the tablecloth. The DJ cleared his throat. "And me?" I smiled. "The same way you smile when the dentist says, 'This might sting.'" He lifted his glass. "To loyalty," he said. "May it always know where to go home." Then he sat. For a second, nobody moved. Then chairs scraped. Silverware clinked again. Conversation rose in jittery bursts. The kind that tries too hard to sound normal. Emily whispered, "He's drunk." But his glass was still half full. Later, When the music started, I tried to forget. We danced, we cut the cake, we posed for photos. Still, that word, loyalty, rattled in my skull like a coin in a dryer. At the bar, one of her bridesmaids, Alyssa, leaned close. "That was awkward," she murmured. "He really shouldn't have brought up, you know." "I don't," I said. She blinked. "Oh, I thought, never mind." We left the reception at midnight, the usual trail of sparkler smoke and drunk laughter behind us. In the car, the silence was heavy enough to hum. "You know, he's just like that," she said finally, overly poetic. "I didn't realize you two still talked." Her shoulders tightened. "We don't, not really. He messaged when he saw the engagement post, said he was happy for me." "You invited him, Em." "I didn't think he'd come." At the hotel, the doorman wished us congratulations. We rode the elevator without speaking. Inside the suite, the bouquet lay on the counter like proof that the night had happened. She unpinned her hair, turned to me. "Please don't let him ruin this." "I'm not," I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. I kissed her temple. Her skin smelled like powder and wine. She fell asleep fast. I didn't. Because on the nightstand, her phone kept lighting up, the screen face down, buzzing twice, pausing, buzzing again. At 2:30, I reached for water and caught the next vibration. The notification preview slipped through before the screen dimmed. From Dylan. "You didn't have to pretend." The glass in my hand went cold. Morning light cut through the blinds in thin stripes. Emily stirred beside me, murmured something about coffee. I told her I'd grab it. Downstairs, I sat in the lobby with a paper cup cooling in my palm, trying to decide whether honesty still mattered once vows were said. My best man, Tyler, found me there. He looked rough, tie loose, hair still wet from a shower. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. He hesitated. "I should tell you. After Dylan's toast, he cornered me outside for a smoke, said some weird stuff." "What kind of stuff?" Tyler rubbed his jaw. "Asked if you knew the truth about the cabin trip, sophomore year. Said if you didn't, you would soon." I didn't know what cabin trip he meant, but the way he said truth made something tighten behind my ribs. When I got back upstairs, Emily was in the shower. Her phone was still on the nightstand, unlocked from the alarm. There were messages. "Dylan, I meant what I said." "Dylan, you can't erase everything with a ring." "Dylan, he seems decent. Don't lie to him like you lied to me." I stared at the words until the steam filled the room. I should have felt angry. Instead, I felt something worse. Familiar. Like stepping into a story already halfway told. She came out in a towel, humming, saw the phone in my hand, and froze. "Jake, she whispered. I set it down gently. "What cabin trip?" Her face went pale. "Oh, God." She sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the towel like armor. "It was nothing," she said. "Just a weekend with friends. Years ago." "And Dylan?" She nodded. "It was the last time I saw him before we ended things." "And?" Her eyes filled. "I thought I was pregnant." The room spun slow. "His?" She shook her head. "I never found out. I lost it before I could." Silence stretched until even the AC hum felt loud. "So his toast was him trying to hurt me," she said. "I never told him I miscarried. He thinks I chose you instead." Maybe it should have ended there. I could have believed her. Maybe part of me did. But when she turned away to dress, I saw her phone light up again. Another message. "Dylan, he deserves to know the timeline. And that's how our honeymoon started, with one sentence lodged between us, echoing every time she said my name. I didn't check out of that hotel as a husband. Not really. We left Jacksonville with half our luggage still unzipped, our smiles rehearsed for the lobby cameras. Emily waved at the clerk, all polite composure, but her hand trembled slightly. A detail I caught and filed away like a photo I didn't want. The drive south was 4 hours of humid silence. Every few miles her phone would buzz in the cup holder, and she'd flip it screen down again. The Bluetooth pinged, asking to connect. I turned it off. "Can you not?" she said quietly. "I just don't feel like hearing from him," I replied. Her jaw clenched. "He's not." "Then tell him to stop texting you." She didn't answer. By the time we hit the Georgia line, a storm was building. Thick clouds rolled low and gray, and rain began its steady percussion against the windshield. Emily leaned her head against the window, eyes shut, mascara faintly smudged at the corners. Somewhere between Brunswick and Savannah, she spoke again, so softly I almost missed it. "I didn't lie to you, Jake. I just didn't tell you everything." I kept my eyes on the road. "That's one way to phrase it," she sighed. "It was years ago. It doesn't matter now." "Then why does he think it does?" She turned toward me then, eyes red, voice cracking. "Because Dylan never lets go of anything. He wants to twist this into something ugly. You can't give him that power." I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But something about that word, twist, made me wonder if what I knew had already been twisted long before he showed up at our wedding. The storm worsened. We drove through sheets of water, wipers groaning. By the time we reached the small bed and breakfast her mom had booked for us as a mini honeymoon, the world smelled like wet pavement and pine. The owner, an older woman named Carol, greeted us with a forced cheerfulness. "Congratulations, newlyweds, right? You're in Magnolia Room, top floor." Emily smiled. "Thank you. It's beautiful." I carried our bags up the narrow stairs, my shoulder brushing the old wallpaper. The room had lace curtains, a clawfoot tub, and a bottle of cheap champagne in a silver bucket. She sat on the edge of the bed, twisting her ring. "I can't stand this tension, Jake. Please, ask me what you want to know." I stood by the window, rain streaking the glass. "When did you find out you were pregnant?" She swallowed hard. 2 weeks after that cabin trip." "And when did you start seeing me?" 3 months later." "Did he know?" "No, I told him it was over before that." "So what's he talking about then? The timeline?" Her lips trembled. "I don't know." I turned, trying to catch her eyes, but she looked down, pressing her thumb against the ring until her knuckle turned white. "Do you still love him?" I asked. "No." She said it fast, too fast. That night we didn't touch. The bed felt too big for silence. I lay awake, watching the ceiling fan turn slow, listening to the creak of old pipes. At some point, I got up, went to the porch, and called Tyler. He answered on the second ring, groggy. "You all right, man?" "Not sure," I said. "You remember what Dylan said about the cabin trip?" "Yeah." "Did he say anything else?" Tyler hesitated. "He said you were marrying someone who used to practice her lies in front of a mirror. I figured he was just being bitter." The next morning, Emily was gone when I woke up. Her suitcase was still there, her dress folded neatly on a chair, but her phone was gone. I checked the hallway. Empty. Downstairs, Carol was setting out breakfast. "Your wife went out walking about an hour ago," she said. "Said she needed air." I walked toward the river path, the kind lined with oak trees and Spanish moss. The air was damp, the sun just starting to burn through the mist. I spotted her on a bench, phone to her ear, shoulders hunched. I stopped far enough back to hear the tone, not the words. She wasn't crying, but her voice was low, pleading. When she hung up, I stepped closer. "Dylan," she flinched. "Jake, I thought you were asleep." "Who else would it be?" She closed her eyes. "He won't stop. He says he wants closure." I laughed once, sharp. "So he sends texts during our wedding? That's closure?" "I'm trying to end it," she said. You have to trust me. But trust doesn't regenerate overnight. It's like nerve damage. You might move the limb, but the feeling doesn't come back right away. That afternoon, I told her I needed space. I went to the coffee shop across the street, ordered something I didn't drink, and stared out the window for an hour. The rain returned. I watched people hurry under umbrellas, couples laughing, lives not collapsing. When I finally checked my phone, there was a new message. Not from Emily, not from Dylan. Unknown number. If you want the truth about the toast, meet me tonight at the pier, 9 p.m. I almost deleted it. Then I noticed the contact photo, one of Emily's bridesmaids, Alyssa. I remembered her from the reception, the one who'd said, "He really shouldn't have brought up, you know." Now she was texting me from a number that wasn't in my contacts. At 9 sharp, I walked to the pier. The rain had stopped, leaving puddles that mirrored the streetlights. Alyssa stood near the railing, arms folded, cigarette in hand. "Didn't think you'd come," she said. "Didn't think you'd text." She exhaled smoke. "You deserve to know what that toast was about." "I'm listening." She hesitated. "Back in college, Emily and Dylan broke up because she cheated." The word hit like gravel in a glass. Alyssa continued. "It wasn't just once. It was during that cabin trip. He forgave her, but then she ghosted him. He found out later she was seeing you." "That doesn't prove anything, Usam," I said, though my throat burned. "I know," she said, "but when she thought she was pregnant, she told him it was his. Then she disappeared. He never got closure. That's what his toast meant. He thinks she ran from the truth." I stared at the water, its surface dark and broken by the pier lights. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're not like the others," she said. "You're decent. You deserve a fair start." She stubbed out her cigarette and walked away. I stayed there long after she left, the wood under my shoes slick with mist. When I finally went back to the room, Emily was sitting on the bed, eyes swollen. "Where were you?" "Out," I said. "I was worried." "Were you?" Her voice cracked. "Jake, please." "I talked to Alyssa." She went still. "What did she say?" "That you cheated on Dylan. That you told him the baby was his." Her shoulders caved. "It wasn't like that." "Then how was it?" She wiped her face. "I made mistakes. I was 22. I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of being trapped with someone who controlled everything I did." "So you lied to him?" She nodded slowly. "And then I met you, and I wanted to start over. I didn't want that version of me to follow us." I sat down, the mattress dipping between us. "You could have told me. You would have walked away." "Maybe," I said. "But at least I'd know who I was marrying." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The rain picked up again, soft and steady, like it had been listening all along. Finally, she said, "What do you want to do?" I looked at the ring on her hand, gold, plain, sincere looking. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm not ready to pretend this didn't happen." The next morning, we checked out early. She cried quietly in the passenger seat, her head turned toward the window. When we got home to Savannah, I took the guest room. For 3 days, we circled each other in silence. She cooked. I worked. When the mail came, she brought it in without comment. Then, on the 4th day, a plain envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a single printed photo. From our wedding. Emily and I, mid-dance. In the background, Dylan watching. On the back, someone had written, "You can't rewrite loyalty." The photo sat on the kitchen counter all morning. Neither of us touched it. By noon, Emily had retreated to the bedroom. The door cracked just enough for sound, but not sight. I stayed at the table, staring at the note on the back until the ink almost blurred from the humidity. "You can't rewrite loyalty." I didn't need to guess who wrote it. The slanted handwriting, the choice of words, it was Dylan's tone all over again, performative, theatrical, but effective. At lunch, Emily came out, her eyes puffy, wearing my old sweatshirt like it might soften what she'd done. She saw the envelope, stopped mid-step. Where did that come from? The mail, I said. She reached for it, but I slid it back toward me. Don't. Just tell me why he still has this much power over us. She sat, elbows on the table. Because I let him have it once, and maybe he never stopped thinking I owed him something. That's not an answer. Her eyes lifted. You really think I sent this to myself? I don't know what to think anymore. That night, after she went to bed, I opened my laptop and scrolled back through every old message I could find. Emails, DMs, even tagged photos on social media. She'd deleted most of them before the wedding, but fragments remained. Comments from mutual friends, posts with inside jokes that suddenly felt heavier. Then I found one from 2 months before the wedding. A public comment under a mutual friend's engagement photo. Dylan. Guess we're all getting married to someone eventually. Emily had replied with a laughing emoji. It meant nothing, and yet it did. The next morning, I drove to Tyler's place. He lived above a garage, the kind of setup that always smelled faintly of oil and coffee. He handed me a beer, even though it was barely 10 a.m. You look like hell, he said. Feel worse. He leaned back against the counter. You thinking of leaving her? I don't know, I said. She's not lying about the basics. I checked the dates, the timelines. It lines up, but he's making it impossible to move on. Then deal with him directly. I can't just show up at his place. Tyler gave a small shrug. Why not? He had the guts to show up at your wedding. I thought about that all afternoon. By sunset, I'd made up my mind. I found Dylan's address through a mutual acquaintance. He was living 2 towns over, in a renovated duplex that looked too polished for someone supposedly stuck in the past. I parked half a block away, waited until the porch light flicked on. He opened the door before I knocked. Jake, he said, like he'd been expecting me. Come in. I won't stay long. He smiled. That's what Emily said once. Inside, the place smelled like old coffee and cedar. There were framed photos on the wall, landscapes, not people. His living room was neat, controlled. So, Sal, he said, sitting opposite me. How's married life treating you? Cut the act. He tilted his head. You got the letter, I assume. What do you want, Dylan? He considered that, rolling the question around like a mint. Closure, maybe? Or accountability? You married someone who lied to me, who broke me, and now you're pretending it's all tidy. You made your point at the wedding. He smiled faintly. No, I just set the table. You're the one who's going to serve the truth. I stood up. Stay away from us. He didn't move. You sure you want to defend her this hard without reading the rest? The rest of what? He reached behind the couch and pulled out a small brown envelope. Letters, he said, from her, after she started dating you. I hesitated. You're lying. Am I? She used to mail them when she was drunk. Said she couldn't send them, but needed to write them. He slid one across the table. My name wasn't on it. His was. You can take them, he said. Decide for yourself. I didn't open them there. I drove home, parked in the driveway, sat in the dark car while crickets filled the silence. The letters felt heavier than paper should. Inside, Emily was waiting at the door. Where were you? I went to see him. Her face fell. Jake? I held up the envelope. He gave me these. She stared at it like it might explode. Did you write them? Her voice was small. Yes, but they're old. I never sent them. Then why keep them? Because I was trying to let go without actually saying goodbye. We sat on the couch, the letters between us. Read them, she said, if you need to. So I did. They weren't love letters. Not exactly. They were confessions. Fragments of guilt, regret, half apologies. I miss the way you used to make me feel seen, even when you were the reason I wanted to disappear. He's nothing like you. Maybe that's the point. I don't know if this ring on my finger is forgiveness or punishment. The last one stopped me cold. Dated 8 months before our wedding. I looked up. You were engaged when you wrote this. She nodded slowly. Yes, but I wasn't writing to him. I was writing to the version of me that was still trapped there. It was therapy. It doesn't read like therapy. It was closure I never mailed. I set the letters down, the paper trembling slightly between my fingers. So what do I do with this, Emily? Pretend it doesn't change anything? She reached out, her hand barely grazing mine. It doesn't change what I feel now. It just explains how long it took me to get here. I wanted to believe that, but something in me stayed cautious, waiting for another shoe to drop. 2 days later, it did. I was at work when I got an email. Subject line, The Real Toast. It had no sender name, just a Gmail address I didn't recognize. Inside was a single video attachment. When I clicked play, it wasn't the wedding. It was a recording from a bar, maybe a week before it. Dylan's voice off camera, slurred, Emily's voice answering. I still think about you, he said. You shouldn't, she replied. Then why did you text me last month? Pause. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Or to make sure I still wasn't. Then the sound of glass clinking, a laugh that didn't sound like her usual one. I stopped the video halfway. My hands were shaking. When I got home, she was in the kitchen chopping onions, humming. Who filmed that? I asked. She froze. What are you talking about? The video. Her knife clattered against the board. He promised. Promised what? Her face broke. He said he'd delete it. I swear, Jake, I didn't cheat. We just talked. At a bar, a week before the wedding. I told you. He was still texting me. I wanted it to stop. Then why go in person? Because I was tired of hiding. That last line stuck. Because that's what I've been doing too. Hiding behind anger, waiting for her to confess enough for me to feel justified. But there was no clean version of this anymore. That night, I packed a bag. I need time, I said. Please don't leave, she whispered. Not like this. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm pausing. Her eyes filled. I'll wait. I stayed at Tyler's for a week. He didn't ask questions. We watched baseball, drank cheap beer, talked about anything but marriage. Every night, Emily texted once, I love you. I'm sorry. I never replied. On the 7th day, a new message came. This one not from her. Dylan, she deserves the truth. Meet me at the cabin, the same cabin where it all started. The road to the cabin hadn't changed. Same gravel crunch under the tires, same long stretch of pine, same narrow bridge that looked one good storm away from collapsing. The place sat an hour outside Savannah, remote enough that cell service faded before the first turnoff. I hadn't planned on going. I'd stared at that text from Dylan for half a day, deleted it twice, then rewrote it to Emily. Did you tell him to contact me? She never replied. By dusk, curiosity won, or maybe exhaustion. The cabin appeared between the trees, dark roof slick with rain, porch sagging just enough to look honest. I parked beside an old silver truck that looked like it hadn't moved in years. When I stepped out, the air smelled like pine and wet wood. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. The world felt too quiet. Dylan stood on the porch, a single bulb buzzing above him. You came, he said. Make this quick. He gestured toward the door. Inside. You'll want to sit for this. The interior was smaller than I expected. One main room, a table, a stone fireplace gone cold. On the wall, a photo of 4 people. Dylan, Emily, and 2 friends I didn't know, all grinning in front of that same cabin years ago. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, slid one my way. You look like a man who's had enough half-truths. I didn't come to drink? He smirked. Neither did she. The night she told me she might be pregnant, She said it over coffee. Sat right where you are now. I stayed standing. Why am I here, Dylan? He leaned back, eyes sharp. Because I need you to understand what she's capable of. You think I ruined your marriage? She started that the day she lied to both of us. He reached into a folder, pulled out a piece of paper. Recognize this? It was an ultrasound image. No name, no date visible, just the faint outline of something that could have been anything. This isn't proof, I said. No, but the letter attached might be. He unfolded another page, yellowed from time. Dylan, I can't do this. If it's yours, I'll never tell him. I just need to start over. My name wasn't mentioned. It was dated 6 years ago. The same month she told me she'd ended things with him for good. Why show me this now, I asked. Because she's still pretending she's clean, and because I'm tired of being the ghost in someone else's story. She's moved on. You should too. He laughed, short, bitter. You really believe that? You think people change because they say vows in a rented ballroom? Maybe not, but I believe people can try. Dylan's eyes softened for a moment. You're better than me. That's why it's unfair. The wind picked up outside, rattling the windows. He stood, poured more whiskey. You know what she told me the day she left? She said, "You make me feel small." And then she ran to someone who'd never ask her who she really was. I set the glass down. You done? Almost, he said. There's one more thing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. Older model, cracked screen. This was hers. She left it at my place after that weekend. I kept it. He powered it on, scrolled through photos until he stopped on one. It was Emily. Younger, hair shorter, standing on the cabin porch with her hand resting on his shoulder. Her face was soft, unguarded. She told you she barely talked to me after college, but he said. This was 2 years later. I didn't want to see it, but I did. I drove back through the rain, my chest tight enough to hurt. I didn't call Emily, didn't text Tyler. I just drove until the lights of Savannah bled into the windshield like ghost reflections. By the time I reached our street, it was almost midnight. The house was dark, except for the porch light she always left on. Inside, the living room looked exactly as I'd left it, except for one thing. The wedding photo on the mantel was gone. Emily was in the kitchen, still wearing the same sweater from the day I left. You saw him, she said quietly. I did. What did he give you? Proof that you lied. Again. She pressed her hands to her face. Jake, please. It wasn't about him. It was about who I used to be. I dropped the ultrasound on the counter. What about this? Did you fake this too? Her eyes widened. Where did you get that? From him. She shook her head slowly. That's not mine. That's his ex's. He's using it to mess with you. I didn't respond. I couldn't tell what truth sounded like anymore. She reached across the counter, voice trembling. I swear to you, Jake, I never lied about us. I only lied about how much I hated the past. For the first time since the wedding, she started to cry. Not quiet, restrained tears, but the kind that shake your whole body. I stood there, watching the woman I thought I knew fall apart over something that might not even be real. Why can't he let you go? I asked. She looked up, eyes wet. Because I was the one who left him first. He thought if he waited long enough, I'd come back. Then why keep the letters? Because if I burned them, it would mean I'd forgiven myself, and I haven't. The room fell still. I took a slow breath. I want to believe you. Then do, she whispered, but belief needs proof. She reached into a drawer, pulled out an old flash drive. Everything's on this. The messages, the receipts, the therapy notes. I've kept it all because I knew someday I'd have to prove it wasn't me who ruined things. I stared at it. Why didn't you show me this before? Because I didn't want to be that person again, the one always defending herself. I took the drive, plugged it into my laptop. Dozens of files opened, screenshots, timestamps, therapist emails confirming the dates she'd ended contact with Dylan, old phone records showing unanswered calls. It was messy but real. Still, one file stood out, titled Cabin Weekend Recordings. I clicked it. The screen showed a shaky video, Emily and Dylan sitting on the porch the same weekend he'd described. Their voices were low but clear. He, "You think this is over?" She, "It has to be." He, "You'll come back." She, "No, I won't." He, "You'll find someone new, and I'll make sure he knows who you really are." The video ended. I turned the laptop around. "He's been planning this for years." Emily nodded. "Now you understand." I sat back, the air finally clearing enough to breathe. "He's not done yet." "No," she said, "but maybe we can end it." "How?" She wiped her face. "He's been using recordings, letters, half-truths. We'll use his own words." That night, we drafted an email together. To Dylan, to our friends, even to the photographer who'd shot the wedding. We attached the video, the messages, everything that showed his pattern. Subject line, "For the record." I didn't know if revenge was the right word. Maybe it was just closure. When we hit send, the room stayed quiet for a long time. Emily reached for my hand. "What happens now?" I squeezed it once. "We see who calls first." The next morning they did. First Alyssa, then Tyler, then even Dylan himself. His name flashing on my phone like a test. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail instead, voice hoarse, low. "You think you've won? You just made sure everyone knows your wife's a liar. The truth always crawls back, Jake, always." I deleted it. That night, Emily and I sat on the porch, watching the sky turn purple. For once, neither of us was waiting for the next blow. The world felt small but honest. Still, a part of me knew it wasn't over. Because the kind of man who gives a toast like that doesn't disappear quietly. It took exactly 9 days for the world to react. 9 days for Dylan's voice message to turn into whispers in Emily's group chat, whispers into posts, posts into screenshots. By day 10, someone had leaked our "for the record" email to Facebook. By day 12, his face and hers were floating in a thread titled "Wedding Toast Gone." Wrong. Ex exposes bride. It wasn't even true, but truth rarely travels faster than scandal. The comments came like flies. Strangers dissecting their history, our wedding, my silence. A few even claimed to know Dylan personally. One said, "He warned me about her type years ago." Another, "Imagine marrying someone who can't let go of her past." I learned quickly that even defending her online made it worse. Screenshots of my replies popped up with captions like, "The groom still believes her." Emily read every one of them. Her eyes got darker each day, not from crying, from the kind of exhaustion that swallows words before they form. We stopped going out. She deleted her Instagram. I started driving her to work early, before the other teachers arrived, so she could slip in unnoticed. One morning, she said quietly, "Maybe we should move." I looked at her, the way she held her travel mug like it might anchor her. "Running won't fix what he did." "I'm not running," she said. "I'm surviving." That afternoon, I called a lawyer. Not for divorce, for harassment. I didn't know what case we could make, but I wanted someone else, someone objective, to see what Dylan had done. I handed over the files, the emails, the recording from the cabin, even the wedding footage. The lawyer, a calm woman named Teresa, watched it all in silence. When the screen went black, she said, "He's stalking you through reputation. It's not illegal yet, but it's getting close. Let me make some calls." 3 days later, Dylan posted his own video. It started with the clip from the wedding, his toast. Then it cut to him in front of a bookshelf, looking wounded and reasonable. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, he said. I just wanted closure. But when someone rewrites history, sometimes you need to remind them what really happened. He paused, eyes steady. Emily, if you're watching, I forgive you. I always did. I just hope Jake understands what kind of woman he married. The video hit 20,000 views overnight. By morning, our email inbox was flooded with messages. Some kind, most not. Reporters, vloggers, strangers asking for our side. Teresa called. Don't respond publicly, she said. He wants attention. We'll go quiet. Let him burn his own credibility. But Emily wasn't built for silence. She spent the next evening drafting her own statement. When she read it aloud, her voice shook but didn't break. I made mistakes in my 20s. I was scared, impulsive, and I hurt someone I once loved. But growing up means owning your past, not living in it. Dylan's version of loyalty is control. Mine is truth. We posted it at midnight. By dawn, it had been shared hundreds of times, mostly by women who saw themselves in her. That weekend, something shifted. Her old students left messages. Friends from college apologized for staying quiet. Even Tyler showed up with a six-pack and said, "You two deserve peace." Peace still felt far away, but maybe it wasn't impossible. One afternoon, about a week later, I was in the garage when a car pulled into the driveway. Dylan's. He stepped out slowly, wearing sunglasses even though the day was gray. "Don't," I said before he spoke. He lifted both hands. "I just came to apologize." Too late. He looked around. The yard, the porch, the house that had once been a background detail in his old girlfriend's life. "You think you won?" "No," I said. "I think we stopped losing." He smiled thinly. "You really believe she's changed?" I stepped closer. "I don't need to believe. I live with her. I see it every day." He tilted his head. "You're a better man than I ever was. That's the first true thing you've said." He nodded once, got back into his car, and drove off. That night, Emily and I sat on the back porch. The air was cool, the cicadas loud. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "Do you think he'll stop?" she asked. "Eventually. And if he doesn't, then we keep living anyway." She smiled faintly. "That's the first time you've sounded like us again." Months passed. The noise faded. The posts slowed. One day, Dylan's accounts disappeared entirely. No profile, no comments, no trace. Teresa called a week later. "He signed a cease and desist agreement. He's done." Emily exhaled, long and deep, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. We drove to the coast that weekend. No plans, no phones, just ocean. She stood barefoot at the edge of the water, the tide brushing her ankles, the wind catching her hair. "I used to think loyalty meant staying," she said. "Now I think it means showing up after everything falls apart." I watched her toss her old wedding bouquet ribbon into the surf. It unfurled like something finally released. A month later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no return address. It was from Dylan. Just one line. "Tell her I understand now. Let her be happy." I didn't show it to Emily. Some things don't need revisiting. I burned it in the sink that night, watched the paper curl into ash. When people ask what marriage has taught me, I tell them this: trust isn't about never doubting. It's about staying even when doubt is loud. And forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't forgetting what happened. It's knowing the story could have ended worse and choosing not to let it. I don't know if Dylan ever forgave himself, but I do know that his last line at our wedding didn't destroy us. It revealed what kind of love survives being tested in public. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.